They say love makes you do crazy things. In my case, love made me write a check for $80,000 to pay off my fiancé's student loans. I remember sitting at my desk that morning, pen hovering over the paper, thinking about how this was the responsible thing to do, the adult thing, the loving thing. I'm Shiloh, and this is the story of how I learned that being the responsible one doesn't protect you from being the stupid one. Are you absolutely sure about this? Lane, my financial advisor, asked for the third time. His concerned expression made the wrinkles around his eyes deeper. Nolan and I are getting married in 6 months, I said, signing the check with the practiced flourish of someone who's been managing family finances since she was 22. What's mine is his, right? Lane shuffled uncomfortably. You've done a lot for your family, Shiloh. The family pot, the emergency funds. Maybe it's time to think about yourself. I smiled and handed him the check. This is me thinking about myself, about my future with Nolan. That was 3 weeks ago. Today I'm standing in my Aunt Meredith's backyard, gripping a plastic cup of sangria so hard it's starting to crack, watching my fiancé, ex-fiancé now I guess, nuzzling my younger cousin Skylar's neck by the pool. More potato salad. My mother, Raylin, appears beside me, acting like she doesn't see what I'm seeing. Mum, I whisper, did you know? She busies herself with rearranging the paper plates. Know what, honey? Don't. My voice cracks. Just don't. Across the yard, Skylar throws her head back, laughing at something Nolan whispers in her ear. She's wearing a tiny white bikini that probably cost more than my first car, likely paid for with money from the family pot I've been faithfully contributing to for years. Meredith sidles up to us, wineglass in hand. They make such a cute couple, don't they? The sangria sloshes over my hand as I turn to face her. Excuse me? Oh, honey, Meredith's sympathy is as fake as her designer bag. Well, she is young and pretty. These things happen. My mother suddenly finds something fascinating to do inside the house. These things happen, I repeat. These things, like my fiancé leaving me for my cousin 3 weeks after I paid off his student loans. Now, Shiloh, Meredith's voice drops to a stage whisper. Let's not make a scene. Family comes first, remember? Family comes first. The mantra I've lived by since Grandma died and left me that inheritance. The reason I've been feeding the family pot while living in a studio apartment and driving a 10-year-old Honda. When? I ask, surprising myself with how steady my voice sounds. How long has this been going on? Meredith takes a delicate sip of wine. Does it matter? What's done is done. You're always so practical, Shiloh. I'm sure you understand. Understanding floods through me like ice water. The cancelled dinner dates, the mysterious weekend work trips, the way Skylar always seemed to know what gifts Nolan would like for Christmas. I set my cup down carefully on the picnic table. You're right, Aunt Meredith. I do understand, she beams, patting my arm. That's my practical girl. The party continues around me like a surreal dream. Cousins chattering, kids splashing in the pool, the smell of burgers on the grill. Then Nolan's voice cuts through it all. Everyone, we have an announcement! My heart stops. Skylar bounces to his side, left hand extended, something sparkling on her ring finger. We're engaged! The yard erupts in cheers and congratulations. My mother reappears just in time to join the group hug forming around them. Nobody looks at me. Nobody except Brian, Skylar's younger brother, who catches my eye with something like shame on his face. I stand very still, watching the celebration unfold, watching Skylar show off my grandmother's ring. The one Nolan had promised was being resized last month. Watching my family embrace this betrayal like it's a blessing. My phone buzzes, a notification from my banking app. Transfer complete. $80,000 to Nolan's loan servicer. Shiloh, Meredith calls out, come congratulate your cousin. I look up, meeting her eyes across the yard. For the first time in my life, I don't smile. I don't nod. I don't play along. Instead, I open my banking app again and start taking screenshots. Because practical, reliable Shiloh might have been raised to believe family comes first, but nobody ever asked which family. And I've just decided it's time to put myself first for a change. The family meeting text came 3 days after the barbecue. I knew what it would be about before I even walked into Aunt Meredith's dining room. The fancy tea set was out, the one she only uses when she's about to ask for money. "Shiloh, darling," Meredith air-kissed my cheeks. "We were just discussing the future." Skylar sat at the table, scrolling through her phone, that familiar diamond catching the light. My mother perched nervously in the corner, clutching her teacup like a shield. "The future?" I settled into a chair, noting the spreadsheets laid out on the table. "Whose future are we discussing?" "Well," Meredith smiled her realtor smile, "now that Skylar and Nolan are starting their life together, we need to talk about the family pot." "Of course we do. We're thinking of buying a house." Skylar finally looked up from her phone. "Nothing fancy, just a starter home, maybe in that new development by the lake." "The one with starting prices at $800,000. "Right. That's wonderful," I said, keeping my voice neutral. "What does that have to do with me?" Meredith slid a paper across the table. "We've calculated the monthly contributions needed to help them with the down payment. Since you're already set up with automatic deposits to the family pot," I picked up the paper. The number made my tea taste like acid. "You want me to triple my monthly contribution?" "It's important to support the next generation," Meredith said smoothly. "You've always understood that, Shiloh, and since you're not getting married anymore—" My mother made a small choking sound. "What about my contribution?" I asked, looking directly at Skylar. "The $80,000 I just paid toward Nolan's loans?" Skylar had the grace to blush. "That was a gift to Nolan, not me. And anyway, that's in the past. We need to focus on the future." "The past?" I repeated. "You mean 3 weeks ago?" "Shiloh," my mother finally spoke, "please don't make this difficult." I stood up slowly. "I need to check something in the account records. Excuse me." "Now?" Meredith frowned. "We're not finished discussing—" "I'll be right back." I pulled out my laptop and moved to Meredith's home office, closing the door behind me. My hands shook as I logged into the family account. 10 years of transaction history stretched before me. 10 years of my contributions, funding everyone else's emergencies and dreams while I lived on budget ramen and shop-brand coffee. Something caught my eye. A withdrawal from 5 months ago, authorized by my grandmother. I clicked the transaction details. $4,000 to medical procedure, S. Steele. My grandmother died 5 years ago. "Everything okay in here?" Brian stood in the doorway, looking uncomfortable. "Hey, Brian," I kept scrolling. "Quick question. Did Skylar have any medical issues this spring?" He shifted his weight. Not exactly. She got her what? Her boobs done." He stared at his feet. "Please don't tell her I told you." More transactions caught my eye. Spa retreats, designer bags, gaming equipment for Nolan, dated 2 months before he left me. "Brian," I said carefully, "how long were Nolan and Skylar seeing each other before the barbecue?" His silence was answer enough. "Shiloh," Meredith called from the dining room, "we're waiting." I closed my laptop. "Coming." Back at the table, Meredith pushed a pen toward me. "So, about the new contribution schedule?" "Actually," I smiled, "I have a better idea. Why don't I show you something interesting I just found in the account history?" Meredith's face went still. "That's not necessary. Like the $4,000 medical procedure authorized by my dead grandmother." I turned to Skylar. "How are those implants working out for you?" The colour drained from Meredith's face. My mother gasped. You can't prove anything, Skylar snapped. Can't I? I pulled out my phone. I wonder what the bank would say about forged authorizations, or the IRS about unreported gifts. You wouldn't, Meredith whispered. We're family. I stood up, gathering my things. Yes, we are, and family comes first, right? So I'm sure you'll understand why I need to protect the family's interests by temporarily freezing the account, for audit purposes. You can't do that, Skylar shrieked. Actually, I can. I'm the primary account holder. I headed for the door, then paused. Oh, and Skylar, congratulations on the engagement. I hope you two will be very happy together. Shiloh, wait, my mother called after me. But I was already gone, my phone buzzing with an incoming call from my best friend Kendall. Perfect timing, because if there's one thing better than having receipts, it's having a lawyer for a best friend. Time to show them exactly what happens when the responsible one stops being responsible. Let me get this straight, Kendall said, spreading documents across her kitchen counter. Your aunt forged your dead grandmother's signature to pay for your cousin's boob job using money that's technically yours, and now they want you to buy them a lake house. I nodded, pouring more wine into both our glasses, while dating my fiancé behind my back. Don't forget that part. The fiancé whose student loans you just paid off. Kendall pushed her glasses up her nose, scanning the account statements. Girl, your family makes my divorce cases look functional. Can they actually do anything if I freeze the account? Legally? No, the account's in your name. She tapped a particular document. But this is interesting. Did you know your grandmother left specific instructions about the inheritance? I leaned over her shoulder. What do you mean? Look at this clause. The inheritance is to remain solely in Shiloh's control, to be used at her discretion. Your family's been operating like it's communal property, but legally, it's all yours. My phone buzzed. A text from Nolan. Hope we can still be friends. I still admire you. Oh, he admires you, Kendall snorted, reading over my shoulder. I'm sure he especially admires that $80,000 you just handed him. Said, I sat up straighter. The loan payment. Didn't Nolan sign something when I made that transfer? Kendall's eyes lit up. The NDA about your inheritance details. Yes! She dug through her briefcase. I drafted it myself, remember? And if he's been using family pot money while secretly dating Skylar, he violated the terms, which means you can demand full repayment of the loan. Kendall grinned wickedly. With interest. My phone buzzed again. This time it was Lane, the family financial advisor. Shiloh, we need to talk. Your aunt just tried to access the account. I'm with Kendall right now, I said, putting him on speaker. What happened? She wanted to transfer funds for a house down payment. When I told her the account was frozen pending an audit, she threatened to have me fired. Kendall and I exchanged looks. Lane, I said carefully, how long have you known about the forged authorizations? A heavy sigh came through the speaker. Since the first one. I'm sorry, Shiloh. I should have told you sooner. But Meredith insisted it was a family agreement. Would you be willing to provide a statement about that? Kendall asked. About the forgery? Absolutely. I'm retiring next year anyway. And Shiloh? He paused. Your grandmother would be proud of you for finally standing up for yourself. After we hung up, I opened my laptop and created a new spreadsheet. Operation Phoenix? Too obvious, Kendall said, refilling our glasses. Call it Family Budget Planning 2023. No one ever reads files with boring names. I began typing, listing every withdrawal, every manipulation, every betrayal. 10 years of receipts. What's your endgame here? Kendall asked softly. Besides the obvious satisfaction of watching them squirm, I stopped typing. I want them to feel what I felt. The shock of betrayal, the humiliation. I want them to realize that every penny they took, every lie they told, every time they used me. It all meant something. It all cost something. And Nolan? I thought about his text, about his audacity to still want my friendship after everything. Text him back, Kendall suggested. Tell him you want to talk. Why would I? Because, she smiled dangerously, every good revenge plot needs a confession, and men like Nolan love to brag when they think they're forgiven. I picked up my phone and typed, "Sure, let's talk. Come by tomorrow." Perfect. Kendall pulled out her phone. "I'll set up my recording equipment in your apartment tonight. Nothing illegal, just a casual conversation between friends about financial arrangements and timing of certain relationships." My phone lit up with Nolan's reply, "Great, I knew you'd understand. You always do." "Oh, I understand all right," I murmured, turning back to my spreadsheet. "I understand exactly what needs to happen next." Kendall peered at my screen. Are you creating an LLC? Investment portfolio, I corrected. Completely legal transfer of assets from a personal account to a business entity, for tax purposes, of course. Of course. She clinked her glass against mine. To tax purposes. And to family, I added, with a smile that wasn't entirely nice, since they're so fond of reminding me how important it is to take care of your own. Behind us, my printer hummed to life, spitting out documents that would change everything. Tomorrow, Nolan would walk into my apartment thinking he was getting absolution. Instead, he'd be giving me ammunition. And after that? Well, as Aunt Meredith always says, these things happen. Nolan showed up at my apartment wearing the cologne I'd given him for Christmas and his most charming smile. The same smile that had convinced me to write that $80,000 check. "You look great," he said, stepping inside. "I've missed you." Kendall's recording equipment hummed silently in my bedroom, picking up every word. "Have some wine?" I offered, gesturing to the couch. "We have a lot to catch up on." He settled in, looking around the apartment we'd once shared. "I really appreciate this, Shiloh. You taking it so well, being mature about everything." I handed him a glass. "Tell me how it happened, with Skylar." "Oh." He shifted uncomfortably. "It just happened, you know. Sometimes these things happen," I finished. "When exactly did it start happening?" The wine was making him loose, comfortable. "Well, remember that business trip to Miami?" "In January?" He nodded, taking another sip. Skylar was there for a modelling gig. We ran into each other at the hotel bar. 6 months. They'd been seeing each other for 6 months. "And the gaming PC you bought in March?" I kept my voice casual. "The one you charged the family account." "That was—" He paused. "Wait, how did you—" "Know about that? I managed the account, remember? Just like I managed your loan payments, your credit card debt, your car insurance." His smile faltered. "Shiloh, about the loans? The ones I paid off 3 weeks before you left me for my cousin?" "I was going to pay you back," he protested, "once Skylar and I get settled. With the lake house you're planning to buy using my money?" The colour drained from his face. "Who told you about—" "The house? The family pot? The forged authorizations?" I pulled out my laptop. "Would you like to see the spreadsheet?" "Look," he stood up, agitated. "Whatever you think you're doing here." "I'm not doing anything, just having a friendly conversation about financial arrangements and timing." I opened a document, like this NDA you signed when I paid off your loans, the one that specifically mentions unauthorized use of inherited funds. You can't. Can't what? Demand repayment when you violated the terms? Take legal action against financial fraud? Because according to this recording— I held up my phone, showing the active voice memo. "You just admitted to using my inheritance money while secretly dating my cousin for 6 months." He lunged for the phone. I stepped back. "Careful," I warned. "Assault charges would really complicate your new engagement." "You manipulative bitch, he snarled. This is why I left you. Always so controlling with money. No, I cut him off. You left me because Skylar was easier, because she let you play with my money without making you accountable. But guess what? The money's gone. What? I closed the account this morning, transferred everything to a private investment portfolio, one that neither you nor the Steeles can access. He grabbed his jacket. Meredith will never let you. Meredith has no say. It was never her money to begin with. I opened the door. Oh, and Nolan, expect a letter from Kendall's law firm about the loan repayment, with interest. You'll regret this, he threatened. The family won't stand for it. The family? I laughed. The family that watched you take my money and my ring and give them both to my cousin? That family? He stormed out. My phone immediately buzzed with Kendall's text. Got it all. Crystal clear confession about Miami. You're a genius. I sank onto the couch, hands shaking as I poured more wine. Another text came through. My mother. What have you done? Meredith is hysterical. Skylar's crying. How could you betray the family like this? I stared at the message, remembering all the times I'd needed my mother's support and found her conveniently absent. All the times she'd pushed me to give more, be more, sacrifice more. Family, I typed back. Funny how I'm only family when you need my money. My phone exploded with notifications, angry messages from cousins, guilt trips from aunts, a particularly nasty text from Skylar about karma and jealousy. I turned off my phone and drove to the cemetery where my grandmother was buried. Her headstone was simple, elegant, like the letter she'd left with my inheritance. It's yours alone, I read the words I'd memorized years ago. If you protect yourself first. I get it now, Grandma, I whispered, placing fresh flowers by her grave. You knew they'd try to take everything if I let them. You were trying to teach me to stand up for myself. A weight lifted from my shoulders as I stood up. Tomorrow, the real fallout would begin. But tonight, for the first time in years, I felt truly free. And freedom, it turns out, is worth every penny. Did you know, I asked my cousin Tracy at Sunday brunch, that Skylar and Nolan took a trip to Miami together in January, while he and I were still engaged? Tracy nearly choked on her mimosa. No way. Way? I stirred my coffee. Interesting timing, don't you think? 6 months before the barbecue? I watched her pull out her phone before I'd even left the restaurant. By dinner, the family group chat was on fire. That was just the beginning. An accidentally forwarded email to my Aunt Patricia revealed Skylar's cosmetic surgery, paid for with forged documents. Patricia, who'd been denied money from the family pot for her son's college tuition, was not pleased. You're playing with fire, Kendall warned during our weekly strategy session. They're starting to crack. Good. I showed her Skylar's latest Instagram post, a heavily filtered photo of her and Nolan, captioned, When you know, shags you true love, sesh soulmates. Interesting. Kendall zoomed in on the photo. Is she wearing your grandmother's ring in a post dated 3 months before Nolan broke up with you? Oops, I smiled. Someone should probably mention that in the comments. My phone buzzed. Brian. Can we talk? His text read. Alone? We met at a coffee shop downtown. Brian looked terrible, like he hadn't slept in days. I can't keep lying, he blurted before I'd even sat down. Mum and Skylar, they've been planning this for months. The Miami trip wasn't the first time. I set down my coffee. Tell me everything. They started meeting last summer. Mum encouraged it, said you were too focused on money, that Skylar would help him live a little. Brian's hands shook. I heard them planning the engagement announcement the night before the barbecue. Mum said it would be cleaner if everyone found out at once. Cleaner, I repeated. Skylar was wearing your ring for months. They took photos in advance, saved them to post later. He pushed his phone across the table. I saved the screenshots. I stared at the evidence. Dozens of photos, text messages, plans, all time-stamped, all damning. Why are you showing me this? Because it's wrong. Brian met my eyes, and because they're planning something. Mum's been meeting with lawyers, talking about contesting Grandma's will. My phone lit up with a notification. Skylar had tagged me in a post. Missing family game nights. Remember when we were all so close? Family first, sha memories. Attached was a photo from Christmas, me unknowingly sitting next to my fiancé and his secret girlfriend, smiling for the camera. That manipulative little, I started. Shiloh? A familiar voice cut through the coffee shop. My mother stood there, clutching her purse like a shield. We need to talk. Brian quickly gathered his things. I should go. No, I said firmly. Stay. My mother sat, her face pinched with worry. Honey, this has to stop. The accusations, the account closure. Meredith is threatening legal action. For what? Protecting my own money? It's family money. No, I cut her off. It's my inheritance, which you knew when you let Aunt Meredith forge Grandma's signature. She flinched. That was just one time for Skylar's procedure. And the spa retreat? And Nolan's gaming PC? And all the other withdrawals I've documented? We're family, she pleaded. We take care of each other. Really? I pulled out my phone, showing her the time-stamped photos Brian had provided. Is this how family takes care of each other? She stared at the evidence of months of deception. I didn't know it started so early. Yes, you did. I stood up. You just didn't want to lose access to the money. That's not fair. Neither is watching your daughter get betrayed and saying nothing. I gathered my things. But don't worry, Mum. I'm still taking care of family. I'm just finally including myself in that category. My phone buzzed again. Meredith, family meeting, tonight, non-negotiable. Perfect timing, I murmured. What are you going to do? Brian asked. I showed him my screen, a PowerPoint presentation titled Family Financial Review. I'm going to give them exactly what they want, I smiled. A nice detailed family meeting about money. Shiloh, my mother called as I turned to leave. Please don't do anything drastic. I paused at the door. Funny, that's exactly what I wanted to hear when my fiancé was sneaking around with my cousin, but you were too busy protecting the wrong people. As I walked out, another Instagram notification popped up. Skylar had posted again. So blessed to have such a supportive family. Wedding planning, Schlatcher blessed. I opened my presentation and added one final slide. Sometimes the best revenge isn't served cold. It's served with receipts, screenshots, and irrefutable proof. And I had all three. Meredith's living room was packed. The whole family had shown up for this intervention. Aunts, uncles, cousins, even some family friends. Skylar and Nolan sat together on the love seat, their hands intertwined. My mother hovered nervously by the window. Thank you all for coming, Meredith stood, every inch the family matriarch. We're here because Shiloh's recent behaviour has become concerning. I set up my laptop and connected it to the TV screen. You wanted to discuss finances. Let's discuss. Not like this, Meredith protested. This is about your emotional response to... To what? I clicked open my presentation. To fraud, to theft, to betrayal. The first slide appeared. Family Financial Review 2023. Boring title, Kendall whispered from beside me. Perfect. Let's start with January, I clicked forward. Specifically, the Grand Hyatt Miami. A hotel receipt appeared, showing Nolan's name and Skylar's. Gasps filled the room. That's private! Skylar jumped up. Like this Instagram post. Next slide. Skylar at the hotel pool, wearing my grandmother's ring. Dated 3 months before you announced your engagement. Those photos were private, Nolan protested. Nothing's private when you save it to a family cloud account. I smiled. Technology, right? More slides, bank statements, forged documents, text messages. With each click, the room grew quieter. Now, about the family pot. I pulled up the transaction history. Let's talk about unauthorized withdrawals. Enough, Meredith stepped forward. This is ridiculous. We all agreed. Did we? I interrupted. Did we agree to forge Grandma's signature, to steal her ring, to plan my humiliation months in advance? It wasn't like that, my mother whispered. No. I clicked again. Screenshots of text messages filled the screen. Meredith, wait till the barbecue. It'll be cleaner if everyone finds out at once. Skylar, what about the ring? She'll notice it's missing. Meredith, she never checks the safe. Just tell Nolan to say it's being resized. The room erupted in murmurs. You planned it, Aunt Patricia turned to Meredith. While denying money for my son's education. The family pot was for emergencies, Uncle Robert added, not cosmetic surgery and secret hotels. Speaking of the family pot, I clicked to the final slide. The account balance, $0. Skylar screamed. What did you do? Protected my inheritance, like Grandma wanted. I turned to face the room. Everything's been transferred to a private trust, legal, documented, and completely under my control. You can't do this. Meredith's face was red. We're family. Funny thing about family, I opened a folder, they should read the fine print. I started passing out papers. These are cease and desist orders. Any attempts to access my accounts or harass me will result in legal action. This is insane, Nolan stood up. I have rights. Actually, Kendall stepped forward. According to the NDA you signed, you don't. But you do have obligations, including repaying that $80,000 loan with interest. I'll contest the will, Meredith threatened. I'll prove what? I challenged. That you forged documents? Misappropriated funds? Please take it to court. I'd love to show a judge these receipts. Brian stepped forward. It's all true. I witnessed it. And I'll testify if I have to. Skylar burst into tears. Brian, how could you? How could I? He laughed bitterly. How could you? All of you. The room dissolved into chaos. Accusations flew. Old grievances surfaced. Years of financial manipulation unravelled in minutes. What have you done? My mother grabbed my arm. You've torn the family apart. I gently removed her hand. No, Mom. You did that when you chose their comfort over my dignity. But where will the money come from now? Skylar wailed. The house, the wedding. I hear jobs are hiring, I suggested. You know, those things where you earn your own money. Meredith stepped into my path as I moved to leave. This isn't over. Actually, it is. I held up my phone. This entire conversation is recorded. One more threat, and it goes to the IRS fraud department, along with 10 years of documented theft. You wouldn't? Try me. I packed up my laptop while the family imploded around me. Cousins stormed out, aunts sobbed, Nolan and Skylar argued in harsh whispers about money. Ready? Kendall asked. I took one last look at the chaos, at my mother's tears, at Meredith's rage, at the family that had taken everything and still wanted more. More than ready. As we walked out, Skylar's earlier Instagram post flashed through my mind. I blessed slab family first. I pulled out my phone and typed a single comment. Receipts don't lie. Karma. Then I turned off my phone, got in my car, and drove away from the wreckage of what used to be family. Sometimes the best revenge isn't just serving receipts. It's walking away while they're still reading them. The fallout was nuclear. Within 24 hours, my phone had logged over 100 missed calls and twice as many messages. I watched them roll in from the safety of Kendall's guest room. Shiloh, please, my mother's voicemail begged. We can fix this. You evil, ungrateful... Meredith's text cut off mid-rant. Skylar's Instagram had gone private, but not before her final public post. Some people can't handle seeing others happy. Jealousy is an ugly thing. Toxic family. She's still not getting it, is she? Kendall handed me coffee and opened her laptop. But the IRS might help her understand. What do you mean? Remember those unreported gifts? The forged withdrawals? She typed rapidly. I may have sent some anonymous tips to the relevant authorities. My phone rang. Lane. Meredith's been calling the office non-stop, he said when I answered. Demanding access to old records, threatening legal action. Let her, I replied. Everything we did was legal. That's not all. Nolan came by asking about reversing the loan agreement. I sat up straighter. What did you tell him? That he signed a legally binding contract and that his new fiancé's shopping sprees with family pot money could be considered financial fraud. A text from Brian popped up. Mum and Skylar got letters from the IRS. They're freaking out. Good, Kendall said, reading over my shoulder. Let them sweat. Another call. Nolan this time. Against my better judgment, I answered on speaker. You've ruined everything, he snarled. The house deal fell through. Skylar's crying. Her parents are being audited. Sounds like consequences, I interrupted. How's that loan repayment plan coming along? You owe me nothing, I finished, but you owe me $80,000, plus interest. Tick-tock. Kendall held up her phone, showing me a social media post from Aunt Patricia. Finally learning the truth about where our family's money really went all these years, disgusted and disappointed. Accountability matters. The doorbell rang. Kendall checked her security camera. It's your mum, she said, with Meredith and Skylar. I took a deep breath. Let them in. They filed into Kendall's living room like a funeral procession. Skylar's designer mascara was streaked with tears. Meredith's perfect posture had crumbled. My mother looked like she'd aged 10 years. The IRS, Meredith started. They're asking questions. About money you took that wasn't yours, I finished. Funny how that works. We can fix this, my mother pleaded. If you just explain it was all a misunderstanding. Was it a misunderstanding when you watched them plan my humiliation? When you said nothing about them stealing Grandma's ring? Skylar burst into fresh tears. The ring was meant for me. Nolan said a lot of things, I cut her off. Like how he'd love me forever, right before you two hooked up in Miami. This isn't about the ring, Meredith snapped. This is about you destroying our family over jealousy. No, I stood up. This is about consequences. For the fraud, the theft, the betrayal, actions have consequences, even for family. What do you want? My mother's voice was small. Money? An apology? I want nothing from you. Not anymore. I pulled out a folder, but the IRS wants quite a bit, and Nolan's loan servicer is very interested in his repayment schedule. You'd really do this, Skylar whispered. To your own family. Family? I laughed. Family doesn't steal from each other. Family doesn't plan months of betrayal. Family doesn't watch their daughter get humiliated and say nothing. Kendall cleared her throat. I have your audit notices and the loan repayment schedule. Shall I explain the terms? Meredith's face crumpled. We don't have... Should have thought about that before the fraud, I said quietly. Before the lies. Before you decided I was nothing but an ATM with a pulse. Please, my mother tried one last time. We're all you have. No, I looked at each of them. I have myself, and that's worth more than anything you tried to take from me. They left with the papers, defeated. Through the window, I watched Skylar check her phone one last time, probably hoping for a message from Nolan about fixing everything. You okay? Kendall asked softly. I nodded, watching my family shuffle to their cars, finally understanding that actions have prices, that karma keeps receipts, that sometimes the quietest person in the room is the one you should have feared most. You know what's funny? I turned away from the window. They're still not sorry for what they did. They're just sorry they got caught. Then they deserve everything that's coming, Kendall said firmly. My phone buzzed one last time. Brian. They're finally learning. Thank you for being brave enough to teach them. I smiled, thinking of my grandmother's words. Protect yourself first. Finally, I had. The letter arrived on crisp cream paper, my mother's familiar handwriting on the envelope. I'd been expecting it since the IRS concluded their audit. Another one for the collection? Kendall asked, watching me add it to my growing stack of unopened family mail. They all say the same thing. I sipped my coffee, looking out at the Seattle skyline from my new apartment. Sorry, but also please help with money. My phone lit up with a news alert. Local real estate agent charged with financial fraud. Meredith's booking photo wasn't her best look. Have you seen Skylar's new job? Kendall handed me her tablet, showing a retail website. Assistant manager at the mall, quite a step down from Instagram influencer. And Nolan, making regular payments on the loan thanks to that wage garnishment order. She grinned. Amazing what people will do when they have no choice. My laptop pinged, an email from Brian. Starting college next week. Thank you for the scholarship fund recommendation. Mum and Skylar still won't speak to me, but I'm okay with that. Speaking of funds, Kendall pulled up a spreadsheet. The Women's Financial Literacy Foundation you started is taking off. 3 more universities want to partner. I smiled, remembering my grandmother's words about protecting yourself. Now I was teaching others to do the same. The doorbell rang. Lane stood there, holding a small box. Found this while cleaning out the office, he said, placing it on my coffee table. Thought you should have it? Inside was a photo album. My grandmother smiled up at me from the first page, standing in front of her own business, a small but successful accounting firm. She built everything from nothing, Lane said softly, just like you're doing now. A notification popped up on my phone. Aunt Patricia had tagged me in a post. Sometimes the strongest people are the quiet ones, proud of my niece for standing up to financial abuse. No more secrets. The family's splitting into factions, Kendall observed, those who learned and those who didn't. My mother's letter sat unopened, but I could guess its contents. The same guilt trips, the same pleas for help, the same refusal to acknowledge the real damage done. Miss Burke, my assistant poked her head in, your next financial literacy workshop starts in 10 minutes. We have 30 women signed up. I gathered my materials, including copies of my grandmother's original business plan, now part of my Building Financial Independence curriculum. Ready to change some lives? Kendall asked. Always. The conference room was full of women, each with their own story of financial abuse or manipulation. As I shared my experience, I watched understanding dawn in their eyes. The same understanding I'd found when I finally saw my family for what they were. Financial abuse isn't always violent, I told them. Sometimes it wears designer clothes and calls itself family. Sometimes it says, we take care of our own while taking everything you have. Heads nodded, stories emerged. By the end, every woman had opened her own separate account and learned how to protect it. Back in my office, I finally opened my mother's letter. I understand now what we did to you, not just the money, but the trust. Some things can't be repaid. I don't expect forgiveness, but I want you to know you were always worth more than what we tried to take from you. Love, Mom. No requests for money, no manipulation, just recognition. That's new, Kendall said, reading over my shoulder. It's a start. I pinned the letter to my board, next to Brian's college acceptance and a photo of my grandmother. My phone buzzed, a text from Nolan. I know I don't deserve forgiveness, but thank you for teaching me about consequences. The loan payments are keeping me honest. I showed Kendall, who laughed. Amazing what bankruptcy threats can teach people. Opening my laptop, I updated my LinkedIn profile. Survivor of financial abuse, founder of Women's Financial Liberation Foundation, teaching others to protect themselves first. The responses poured in immediately, women sharing stories, seeking advice, offering support. "You've started a movement," Kendall said proudly. I picked up my grandmother's photo, tracing her confident smile. "No, I just continued one. She tried to teach them about respect, about earning their own way. They didn't listen. But you did. And now others will too." Outside my office window, Seattle sparkled with possibility. My phone remained quiet. No more family drama, no more manipulation, no more lies. I'd lost a family, but found a mission, built something meaningful from the ashes of betrayal. Opening my presentation for tomorrow's workshop, I typed the title, "Your Worth is Non-Negotiable." Because sometimes the best revenge isn't just surviving, it's teaching others how to survive too. And that's a legacy worth building.